I woke up left out on the porch, making too much noise. Up all last night, baby, up all last night. Party all night long, there is nothing wrong, baby, it's alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Took a look at myself for a minute, I've been too washed out and I stopped to rethink it. Bad vibes are coming like waves, I had to decide why I wanna break down. For a minute it's okay to take a second just to let the intuition happen. You see how slowly definitions faded out of reminiscences on the past time. Drinking in new times, I'm having the best life. How we roll, 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 we've been dancing till we fall. Drinking red wine on the weekends just to run away. Go, 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 I don't want to let this feeling go. I woke up left out on the porch, making too much noise. Up all last night, baby, up all last night. Party all night long, there is nothing wrong, baby, it's alright. Everything's gonna be alright. I don't really care that outside is a mess. I just really wanna find a way out of the stress. I feel tired, I wanted to rewind, maybe just rewrite another happy ending to this. Maybe I feel like I'm going crazy by the second. I would love to raise a glass, say a toast, congrats on the good vibes, blessing for true life, praise for the old times. How we roll, 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 we've been dancing till we fall. Drinking red wine on the weekends just to run away. Go, 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 I don't want to let this feeling go. I woke up left out on the porch, making too much noise. Up all last night, baby, up all last night. Party all night long, there is nothing wrong, baby, it's alright. Everything's gonna be alright. I woke up left out on the porch, making too much noise. Up all last night, baby, up all last night. Party all night long, there is nothing wrong, baby, it's alright. Everything's gonna be alright.
Drew, there's Drew. All right, and then Jordan's about to disappear. What's up, everybody? We're finally live. Oh my God! So many technical difficulties today, man. Every time. This is always why we jump on like 15 to 20 minutes early, bro. Because there's always some shit that happens. Anyways, guys, welcome to Wine Talk with Tesh. It's your boy Tesh, and of course, we have the sexiest beard in Sacramento back. Drew, welcome back, homie. Okay, cool. So I think the problem is going to be, though, is that the people can't hear you on Facebook and on YouTube. So do you have a mic that's on your computer that you can switch? If you go to settings and mic, if you just switch to your internal mic or something, then it should be good to go from there. And then that way, at least people can hear you on both platforms. So right on. There you go. Beautiful.
Yeah, that work?
That's perfect.
Oh my gosh. You would think after like all this freaking time and all these digital things. So it's like I've done so many happy hours. I've done so many Zooms. I've done all the different things. And the interesting thing is, like, as of recently, I've had more issues that like the world has opened back up, like now more than ever. For like my private tastings, for my trainings, everything. I've had more issues, and none of it makes sense to me. Like I just don't get it. But you know, here we are. I finally feel a little bit relaxed. Anxiety's gone. I'm ready to drink some wine.
Please.
talk booze with you, my friend.
All right, cool,
So-
man. Well, thanks for dealing with it, and thanks for making time to join us again. For those of you guys who are watching, please pour yourself a glass. There we go. Boom. Orgo Kisi. Fun fact about this wine: I actually tasted this wine months ago. It's been a hot minute since I've actually tasted this wine. I would say at least 3, 4, 5 months ago. It's been a while, but I remember tasting it and just thinking like, damn, that's really, really good. And I really want to put that in front of everyone. We just kind of had to wait for the right time and the right opportunity for me to be able to sneak it into a box and also get Drew back, because I know that you guys love Drew. And you know, it's just not really the same. What's up, Christy? It's not really the same without having him here. So Drew, thanks again, man. Besides your internet connection giving you mild hypertension, how have you been?
I've been okay. I'm actually now a statistic. I caught that wonderful bug that's been going around that you see on the news every day.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
You doing okay? You're feeling all right? Like, you seem like you're okay.
I'm okay. It was if we would have done this 2 weeks ago, I would have been in a bad place. But you know, I had the vaccine, so it wasn't as bad as it potentially could have been. Right. I'll say this, like I'm a little worried about my palate for sure. Mm-hmm. That is something that I feel like it's coming back. Like, it feels better today than it did yesterday and the day before that. But that's obviously a huge concern for me, right? Because this is what I do for a living.
Absolutely.
So to be kind of worried about my palate now really fucking sucks. However, I think I'm out of the woods, and now what I'm just dealing with is just the exhaustion part, and like the I get to like early afternoon, and before I just thought it was because I had a 3-year-old, but it turns out I had the plague. So to
be fair, I mean, a 3-year-old can do that to you.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't think much of it and all that fun stuff. So but outside of that, like, it's, you know, it's been a really good year for me, both professionally and personally and stuff. And it's, you know, I think I can't remember what we did the last time, but I remember I was super prepared for that. And then so this one I'm really excited because, you know, we have two wines and really two wineries that have kind of I don't know, I guess led this wine revolution for myself, where I was not necessarily the biggest wine drinker before. I mean, like, I did, but I didn't put too much stock into it, right? And in these two places where it was kind of like, you know, with Georgia and then with Lebanon, it was like, oh, this is really interesting. This is, you know, for the people who know me, like, this is totally on brand because it's weird. Mm-hmm. So it was like, it was a really great way to get into it, and then also be able to work within my portfolio, and then, you know, take those things and bring them to people like you who have this really deep appreciation and this knowledge base for wine that I don't have. And it's been fun to take these things that people aren't really necessarily accustomed to and accustomed to seeing, like, you know, especially this first one with the Orgo winery and the Kisi grape in general. I'm really excited about this wine. And I think the reason being is because it really acts as this beautiful bridge between, like, what people are kind of used to drinking when it comes to lighter wines, and then into more of kind of like the Georgian style with the Qvevris and everything like that. So it's a really good bridge wine, and it's one that I've found that I've really fallen in love with this grape, and I've really fallen in love with white wines in general, because I finally realized how complex they are, and I am no longer underneath the guise of the California white wine grape. You know, like, I get it. Like, it's like, oh, this can be dynamic, and it can have multiple layers and things like that. And so I've really gotten into the Kisis, and it's been fun to not only explore Orgo's Kisi, but then also go through the rest of my portfolio, go outside my portfolio, find other people using the Kisi grape, and being able to enjoy it, because it's just fun. And what I've found is where, you know, sometimes the Georgian wines, and in particular the amber wines, can be really weird and aggressive for people, and kind of like push them off from the category. This one is like a real like, crowd pleaser. It's like people like it. The color still throws them off a little bit, but once they taste it, it's just like it's game on.
Yeah. Why is my white wine bright gold? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so and the reason for that is that they're fermenting with the skins on the actual grape. They're not taking that out. And so it's going into a qvevri, which is going to be this huge clay pot, which I know I've shared some pictures with you, Tesh, of like a guy just like inside of it cleaning it out, which just looks super dangerous. But
yeah, that can't be safe.
Yeah, and so basically, and again, this would qualify. This is in kind of like the natural wine world and stuff. Over in Georgia, they just call it winemaking, but they're getting it into the point where they put it in, they seal it, they walk away, and then they open it up, and they might mess with some sulfites, but very minimal. And then they bottle it, and it's just it's just the purest form of winemaking, and it you just really let the terroir be the feature and the grape itself, and so it's just rad. This is just a rad wine, and I'm just super excited that we're able to come back to it and then feature it tonight, and hopefully we can get some more out to people and continue preaching the good word of Georgian wine.
For sure. I mean, I think for those of you guys who have been following me and have been doing the Tesh Talk boxes, which actually there's quite a few of you guys who are just on like a recurring basis, which is really dope. So real quick, thank you all. But what the dopest thing about it, I think, is that quite a while ago we were familiar with this producer Orgo because we actually tasted one of their red wines, which is with their Saperavi. And that was incredible. And a lot of you guys fell in love with that. So I was excited when I tasted one of their white wines that just really, I thought, in the same vein that Drew is speaking of, I think this is a very good, quote unquote, bridge wine, right? To kind of like introduce you to like a dry amber wine, that isn't necessarily, like full blown, you know what I mean? Like full blown, like almost like borderline drinking red, where it has like so much, structure, in terms of texture and things like that, where like I think you get a little bit of texture here but still drinks like a white wine. The color the color is intense, but yeah, that's a product of how they make it in the qvevri, like you said. So I know that your palate is just slightly off. Can you walk us through, to the best of your ability, you know what I mean? Walk us through some tasting notes that we might notice or we might appreciate about this wine that we necessarily wouldn't find another. And then I have a follow-up question after you hit us with some tasting notes.
Yeah. So, I'm, and people know this who have been on my tastings before. Like, I'm never going to be like too specific on stuff because these tasting notes are so personal, right? And I don't want to alienate anybody or anything like that.
And you know what? And that's okay, Drew. I mean, I tell everybody all the time, like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to taste something different than you are, depending on what I've had to eat today, depending on how much my children stress me out. You know what I mean? Depending on the form of ashwagandha I took today. You know what I mean? All those things are going to make a difference.
Yeah. And okay. And so I just want to preface that. It's like, before I get into this. So, I definitely encourage people to go out and get this bottle and try it themselves. But one thing that I will say about amber wines in general and just really, really cool stuff is that they do a great job of bridging that weird weather that we get in Northern California. Like right now it's just fucking hot. Like there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But there is large portions of our year where we're kind of straddling that thing as like, it's not necessarily, super, super hot where you want like a white wine that's like super refreshing and crisp, but you're not necessarily ready to dump into like a big cab or something like that because that's a little too heavy. And if you're not feeling the Pinot Noir thing, I really love these ambers, and I really love this Kisi for that because you are getting notes of like dried peach and pine and flowers and kind of like this black tea. But then it's really full bodied, and then that firm tannin comes in. And it's just like, you're like, whoa, okay. So it was bright and refreshing, but then it ended really boldly. And I think that's a really great thing to kind of have like the best of both worlds, right? Is just like, you're enjoying it. And it's like, it's bright. You think it's one thing, and then it kind of takes that hard right turn, and then it's something completely new. And I just think that's like really, really cool. So Ashley Sawyer just asked, what's the difference between amber and orange wine?
Yeah.
And really it comes down to what country it's from and what they're talking about. So, orange wine has been a big, growing product here in the US. And so a lot of people have referred it to orange wine. In Georgia, the country of Georgia, they've always referred to it as amber wine. It's just, the country of origin is what we're talking about. They're very much so the same principles that are in it, but it's just regionally speaking, Georgians were like, if you went up to them, they're like, oh, you're making orange wine. They're like, we're making amber wine. What are you talking about? This isn't orange wine. This is amber wine. Right. But it's the same thing. So, yeah, it just depends on where you're talking. I mean, it's just like champagne, sparkling wine, tequila, agave, mezcal, like all that fun stuff. Like, it just depends on where it's from and things like this. And then Christy also put in, love the red. This maybe needs to breed a little. Yeah, I think that's always going to be the common trait when it comes to some of these more rustic wines, especially the ones that come out of my portfolio. And maybe we need to put a section on Tesh's website where it's like, hey, by the way, this is a JVS joint. So,
that would actually be pretty dope, wouldn't it? Like, hey, man, JVS joint. People are gonna go. That's gonna be the hottest page, I tell you.
Yeah.
If I put JVS joint on the headline,
I mean,
more people would visit that page than any other page on my website.
I mean, I like to think so, but so it's like I always joke when it comes to this wine, or especially the next one that we're about to do. It's like you pop these bottles open, you pour them into your decanter, like you go and do your taxes and maybe run a marathon, and then you come back and drink it. Because there's a lot. I mean, you gotta remember, like, there's not been a whole lot of time for these things to really hit air and stuff like that. Like, it's just it's pretty intense. So, but kind of getting back to those tasting notes, it's just really, really fun how it kind of straddles both things, where there are those fruits and that pear that I was talking about, but then it is still very tannic.
You mentioned pine, you mentioned pine, and I just thought that was a perfect descriptor for this wine. You know what I mean? Like, I think you get that hint of yeah.
And it's not going into barrels, and that's like kind of the trip, right? But that's all this. I mean, it's like, but that's because everything literally went into the Qvevri. We're talking, all the twigs that it was on, and the grape skins, everything, the seeds, everything goes into the Qvevri. So that's really where the tannin's coming from. Sometimes people will be like, oh, is there like a minerality that comes from the clay that it's been, fermenting in? And you don't want that in Georgian wine. You don't want a clay taste. Like, you remember we used to have like those clay pitchers that you'd put your water in, right? Like, those are something that you could, like, you taste like that minerality on it. You don't want that in Georgian wines. That means that your Qvevri was poorly made. And because they need to be neutral vessels, they're not imparting any flavor profile whatsoever. So that's one of the contributing things there. And I think one of the other cool thing is, Orgo is a father-son production, and this field specifically was actually planted by the grandfather. And so it's kind of like a family heritage for them. And this is significant because during when the Soviet Union was really running stuff, they actually went into the country of Georgia and ripped out a bunch of those vines and took away a lot of people's. I mean, and this is the birthplace of wine, right? Like, Georgian wine dates back to the Silk Road. And so with that being the case, they ripped out all the vines and basically left these fields barren and like really focused on huge production and stuff like that. So the fact that we still have a field that dates back to the 30s, it's like one of the older fields in the country of Georgia, because most of that most of that stuff was ripped out in the 50s and 60s, and then wasn't really started to be replanted until like the early 2000s. So it's kind of cool to have something. It's not as old as some of the other vineyards that we're used to hearing about. But
sure, like, right.
You know, you factor in world politics, and it's an old vineyard. So they take it very.
They can't
seriously,
all be 1,000-year-old vineyards. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's really relevant, and that's something I always try to talk about when you're talking about Georgian wine, is that, you know, this is a country that has been has just got its ass kicked for the entire history of human civilization. I mean, it just was.
It's quite sad, actually, if you go back and you read about it a little bit. It's just,
yeah, it's, you know, it's like, I think their capital city has been burned to the ground like 27 times in world history. Like that's brutal. And so, but one of the prevailing things is that they've always found a way to, you know, continue to make this wine and use these, you know, traditional methods and stuff like that. And then now, with hopefully that stuff all in their rearview mirror, wine has become the biggest export in Georgia, and it's really kind of cool to see everybody behind it. Like, it's like the Georgian government is behind it, the people are behind it, and it's a really great opportunity for anybody who's into wine to be part of a very historical wine, but also one that's brand new and emerging, and you kind of get to be an early adopter, which I think is, which I'm into. I like that. I think that's a cool thing to be like one of the first people. Is like, hey, I was drinking Georgian wine when you didn't even know what orange wine was, you know? So, you know, silly things like that.
Yeah, for sure. Lizzie, what else do we have? Chrissy said she's totally tasting tea now. Super interesting. I do think that this is one of those wines that that first sip can really be like it's like a shocker. You're like, oh, like I don't really know what to expect. But then as you get into it, right, and really get familiar with the wine, it starts to get better and better and better and better. And really, like when we say like this is kind of like the bridge or the gateway, this is kind of like the gateway wine for amber wine. I think that this is as easy drinking as you're going to get in this category. You know, this and like something like the Rakatsateli that we had quite some time ago. Those are examples of wines that are really good, interesting segues into the world of Georgian wine. And yeah, Ashley, Drew nailed it. The amber wine and orange wine thing, it's just a place of origin and what they decided to call it. I've seen some orange wine coming out of Italy as well, oddly enough. But you see it used a lot here. Georgians just prefer to call their wines amber wines, and that's what they are. And it's funny, right? Because they call them orange wines, but they don't look orange. They're not made from oranges, which some people out there might think that that's a thing. That's not a thing. And the only, I have had pineapple wine made from pineapple. It was awful. It was not good. Don't do that. Stop. Whoever the producer, you know who you are. Don't do that no more. It was really bad. So no. I love this wine, and if you guys, did anybody make the Cajun shrimp and steak pasta? Did anybody out there make that dinner, or any kind of variation of it? Because I think that if you have seafood in front of you, I think that's when this wine really starts to shine and starts to really brag about its place in the world. You know what I mean? So if you guys have some. I don't know. If you have like cold shrimp in the fridge, go get it. Have a couple bites while you're drinking this wine and really let it open up and really let it tell you about why it's so good. Oh, Ashley said they did. It's so good. Good. Hey, Ashley, did you guys make the recipe that I sent out specifically? Or did you guys do like a variation of your own? Because I know you guys are into cooking. So I'm curious what you guys ended up doing and how it worked. I know a couple of you guys were going to do some steak or something. What just happened to Drew's screen? That was the weirdest thing ever. Drew, your screen just went into like that image that you saw when you were trying to watch naughty movies when you were like, 10, and that's what your screen just looked like. It was the most bizarre thing. It didn't happen on yours?
In and out. I mean, yeah.
That's awesome. Sorry I made ratatouille and mushroom rice pilaf.
Oh, I just got kicked.
Right? I don't know. Christy, don't be sorry that you made it, but next time try the recipes that I send out in some way, shape, or form, right? Because I've made those recipes. They are really good, but also they really are intended to kind of highlight the wine and vice versa. I want those to pair together. I want you to enjoy them together because I think that they bring about something that you wouldn't have otherwise experienced. So I have 2 bottles of the Orgo Kisi left on the website. We'll throw up a link in the chat here. Good. Ashley said she loved the recipe. They're definitely going to make it again. I did a variation penne with steak and shrimp, mushrooms, red peppers, garlic, and spinach. That sounds bomb, Lori. I hope that you are enjoying your dinner. And Drew, I'm adding you back because I don't know what happened. Boom. There we go. You should have gotten an invite from me on Instagram. Thanks for putting up that link, Jordan. Appreciate you. Jordan's in the background as always, guys. In case y'all didn't know, I'm sure y'all know because y'all have been like, "Oh, Jordan's not here. We can tell." And I was like, "Cool, thanks for, Oh, there he is. Look at that little sugar. All right. So, does anybody have any other questions in regards to the Orgo Kisi specifically? D fucking licious. All right. Does anybody have any other questions in regards to the Orgo before we move on to the Chateau Ksara? I'll give you a second. I am baking a chicken and rice dish with mushrooms. That'll go, well, sis, you didn't get a box, but, cool. Let's see what's going on with Instagram here.
I just need to stop touching things.
Stop. Don't touch it. Don't touch it. Don't touch it.
I touch it and it breaks.
Don't touch. Okay. Ralph said, we didn't have steak and shrimp hates me. We did salmon. Does that count? Absolutely, that counts. Last time I checked, salmon was seafood. The pairing is good. I think the shrimp was better than the steak in the dish. It'll be interesting to try the second wine with it. Boom. Let's do that. That's why I gave you a specific recipe that included both, right? Like I wanted you to have shrimp or some kind of seafood, but I also wanted you to have the steak in the dish. So if you have the Chateau Ksara, this unique red blend coming from, here's why it's unique. It's coming from Lebanon. I'm willing to bet that most of you guys have not ever had wine from Lebanon. Lebanese wine, before I let Drew talk about the producer and what makes this particular wine cool. Lebanese wine very, very often is associated with one particular producer by the name of Chateau Ksara. And Chateau Ksara is, when you think of Lebanese wine, most Psalms think Chateau Ksara. That's not to say that there are not other Lebanese producers, obviously. I'm just saying that one has probably done a better job of marketing itself in the world of wine. And yeah. So if you have this, pour yourself a glass. And if you don't, I have 3 bottles left on the website. We'll put up the link for that in the chat. And then we'll go from there. So Drew, take us away, man. Tell us about Chateau Ksara, what makes it cool, why we should bother with a Lebanese wine.
Yeah. So hopefully I stay live with you guys. I mean, I just, again, I cannot believe how many issues that we've had so far. And I know that you threw this out to me, like last week or the week before, in terms of like getting together live, and it was just kind of like, it's like, oh, I don't know, we'll see what happens. And now we need to do it. Like moving forward, we're gonna do these in person because I don't want to play these reindeer games anymore.
For sure.
But anyways, okay. So yes, like all the things that you're saying. I mean, it's funny when I go to different wine accounts and I say that I have a Lebanese wine. It's exactly what I end up hearing. Right? Is like
right.
they mentioned.
Is it Chateau Ksara?
Yeah, they say
Musar.
Yeah, they say Musar, but they never say Ksara, and it's a and it's totally understandable. Musar is really, really awesome and does great stuff, but Ksara is great too, and it has this really beautiful history, and it does a really great job of embracing new and old. I mean, at this point, it is the biggest production facility in Lebanon in terms of how much they're producing each year, which is something they take a lot of pride in because they do have this melding of historical significance plus modern techniques. And so
I would
This
imagine
was
that even I would, and I'm sorry to cut you off, Drew, but I would
no,
imagine that even though it's the biggest producer in Lebanon, um, it must still be pretty small, right? Like they're
yeah.
not like cranking out like 10,000 cases and shit, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's definitely not. It's definitely not that. I don't know what the total case count is, but you're absolutely right. Like it's one of those situations where it. I mean, like what are we measuring here? You know,
right, for sure.
especially compared to like what we're used to seeing. So with that being the case, like this winery has been around since 1857, and it was actually opened up by like most things back then by a collection of monks. And what they were doing was a couple different things. So in you have these vineyards that have been planted out there, and people have been making wine for hundreds of years, and then they had this huge Ksara, which is like the fortress, right? And the fortress was in the middle of all the fields and things like that. It was also used to observe star patterns and things of that nature, which is really cool. So it kind of always had this place. Like they were measuring seismic activity, they were measuring the stars, and they were also producing wine. So there's all these different relevant pieces of what Chateau Ksara is. And when the monks came in, they're like, okay, well, one of the things that the Catholic Church was known for was alcohol production kind of all over the world, right? So with that being the case, they started to produce wine, and it's produced in the Bekaa Valley, and the Bekaa Valley is in between two mountain ranges. So it is protected from like super crazy weather, but it also has kind of like some fun climates to it as well. So it gets, we are talking about the Middle East, so you have this element of super hot during the day, and then it cools down very rapidly at night. Heavy rainfall in the winter, but super dry the rest of the year. So those
Drew, sorry, 1 second, real quick. Hey, no, it's
all
not
those
your
factors
internet,
playing
man.
in.
I know that the Instagram feed is struggling a little bit, so jump over to Facebook or to YouTube. It's not your internet, I promise. Jump over to Facebook or to YouTube. If you jump onto YouTube, just search for Wine Talk with Tesh. I'll pop right up. If you go to Facebook, go to my Wine Talk with Tesh page, and you can see the live stream there. Jordan, could you check while you're watching us on a different tab, maybe? Obviously. On Wine with Tesh, and if you go to the Wine Talk page on the very bottom, there should be the live stream should be streaming there as well. So I know we're having some technical difficulties. So thank you for being patient. Thank you for letting me know. We'll get it ironed out. You know what I mean? I think in the near future, we're going to try and meet up in person to do these. As long as everyone doesn't have nobody has COVID.
Right.
But that is on our radar, and we all want to be safe, but we want to deliver you a quality experience as well. So thanks for being patient. So yeah, sorry, Drew, jump back in, man. My apologies.
No. Again, I know this is probably really choppy for a lot of people, so I do want to extend the invite that if people have questions about this, feel free to reach out to me, and we can go over it together, and I can get you all the unchoppied information. So anyways, like, so the monks are producing wine, and then there's kind of some, there's a little bit of folklore here, but what they say is there was a guy that was out hunting, and in this valley there is a lot of like rabbits, and the rabbits are, of course, are burrowing and stuff like that. And so he's out chasing this rabbit with his dog, and rabbit goes out into the burrow. The dogs are going after him, and it actually gives way to a little cavern. They go and explore it, and they find that they have these caves that date back to the Roman Empire. And so now what you have is like you have 2 kilometers of these various tunnels and things that exist underneath the Ksara Chateau, which is crazy, right? These caves, which date back to the Roman Empire, are now being used to store wine, and that's what I think is what is really cool now, is that, like, they're able to temperature control it down there, and it was something that they just kind of happened upon. Now, in 1973, you have the Catholic Church basically decides we're out of the booze business, we're selling all of our properties and stuff like that. It then goes into the hands of a group of investors, and they end up adopting this, rich history and multiple vineyards and stuff like that.
That never happens in the wine world, Drew. Investors never buy out wineries.
Right. I just got booted again.
Oh, that's all right. I'll stay live on Instagram, and then if we'll just kind of control it in the background. Josh, thanks for switching over, man. I know that it's it's all good. We're here now.
Yeah, the Instagram is rough.
There you go. Jordan threw up the link on Instagram for those of you guys who are hanging out on Instagram. I'll just send him a request. We'll see. We'll let him jump back in. But you were saying that that essentially it had this really rich history, really even kind of like folklore history, and then they got bought out by a group of investors or whatever happened. What happened then?
Okay, so you have this group of investors comes in and they start to plant a lot of noble grapes. So then you have a lot more grapes that people are used to seeing and things like that. And that's actually what you see in some of the blend here that we're drinking. So you got the Cab Sauv, the Merlot, and then Petit Verdot, which ends up going into this red blend. And then from there, it is put into new French oak. And oh my God.
You know what, dude? Don't even sweat it. We'll just end the Instagram and we'll just focus on here. I'm just gonna. Hey, for those of you guys watching, still watching on Instagram, switch over to Facebook and YouTube. I'm sorry to end this live. We're just having too many issues with it at the moment, but we will. We'll come back at you, and then I'll post a better quality of this video at a later time to my IGTV. All right, guys. Later. So I won't even bother sharing that at the moment. Just delete it. All right, cool. Oh, and there's a Sacramento Kings clip from Classic, California Classic. All right. There we go. Now we can just focus on here.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we can hear you. Yep.
Oh my gosh. Instagram, you were like my savior and then you let me down. But
it happens, man. It happens.
I took the headphones off. We're off Instagram. Now we're just on Facebook. I can hear you. You can hear me, right?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're talking about, they're doing this grape blend with, which I said, like they have these noble grapes. You have a soil composition that's a lot of chalk and a lot of clay. So there's really good drainage there too for your grapes. And then this one in particular, blended together, goes into French New Oak, and it's in that for a year before they take it out and then bottle it. So that's the makeup. So again, 60% Cabernet Sauvignon, 30% Merlot, 10% Petit Verdot, and so it's really, really fun, easy drinking for me. I mean, there's definitely a lot of complexity to it and kind of hits. And but I've really come to enjoy it. I like things like this, especially these different blends and whatnot. One thing that I did want to ask you, Tesh, is the first time that you tried this, you were kind of like, okay, I'm getting strong Bordeaux vibes, and then you followed it up with, I see what he was kind of going for here. And I didn't ask you then, but like, what did you mean by that when you tasted this the first time?
I think that like even now, right? Like I'm tasting it and it's like this isn't about going for like a fruit bomb style of wine. It's about going for something that is very balanced. So you get like those strong like blackberry, black cherry notes from the fruit, but it's not super ripe. They have just enough ripeness to them to where you pick up on them appropriately. You get a little bit of that plush texture from the Merlot. The color, obviously, the Petit Verdot comes into play there. And then, yeah, that. I think that what they were going for was for a balanced wine and not to be like a straight up crowd pleasing slut of a wine. You know what I mean? Like I think that that's what they were going for. And so yeah, I remember. And actually, I think if I recall correctly, I think at first I was like, oh, like it kind of tastes like cab. And then you were like, yeah, they were going for more of a Bordeaux style. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And yeah, I think it's beautifully done. And it's funny, right? Like all the things that I called, like if you look at the notes on the back, it says raspberries, black currants, and vanilla. I just said none of those things. Uh, so it just goes to show you, right? Like what in terms of tasting notes, we all have a tendency to lean towards one direction and pick a certain set of group of characteristics that we're more familiar with. So
Yeah, well, and I think that's also like important to point out. It's like, what you consider as a pleasant taste profile, someone else might consider awful, right? I always or maybe not as good, or kind of just a different feeling altogether. Like I always use the apple pie example of, if I grew up eating like this specially baked family recipe apple pie, it's going to be a lot different than what McDonald's offers, right? Not saying McDonald's is bad, but it's a much different profile than what we're getting with like the homemade recipes. So that's why, yeah, you go with the familiarity, but sometimes you get so specific that it's kind of like, oh, that doesn't really resonate with other people.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And we always joke about it, right? But like in the first Psalm documentary, the dude who was like fresh cut garden hose, and they were like, what the fuck, right? Like, what the fuck does that even mean? And I personally, I love it. Like, as soon as he said it, I was like, I know exactly what the fuck he's talking about, right? But it's obscure, and like, who the fuck remembers what that smells like unless you're actually really into like smelling stuff for a living. Um, right? Like when you pay attention to stuff, right, Jake? Drew, do you run into this? Like when people walk by me, even in a distance, like if somebody is wearing like a certain scent, I'll be like, damn, that smells really good. And I have to be really careful as a big brown 300-pound guy, because sometimes it'll be like, wow, you smell really nice. And that can come across like pretty fucking creepy.
Well, as a middle-class white male, I'm going to completely walk away from this conversation. This is a no-win scenario.
It doesn't help that I'm breathing heavy over them, smelling their hair, going, you smell real nice.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's like it's just, it ends up becoming so specific, and I always love the tasting notes, and whether it be garden hose or I have a friend of mine who really upset a master distiller in Scotland by referring to his scotch as reminded him of baby vomit, but it was like a complimentary. It was like baby vomit in a good way. It was super, super weird. Another tasting note he gave was like old action figure plastic, like that he grew up with, and it's a weird guy. He's a weird guy for sure.
Those are weird descriptors. I like it. I understand where he's coming from. It's weird though.
But it's always with the caveat of like, oh, it's baby vomit, but in a good way, or
right.
Like,
yeah. No, if you have to clarify, but in a good way, yeah, just leave it out, man. Just be nice.
But so kind of getting back to the profile on this one, and again, I think my taste buds are definitely still compromised right now. Okay. It's there's elements that I'm remembering as I drink this one that I'm like, oh, and here comes and it's not there. So I'm not 100% yet, and that really bums me out. Which is maybe why I think it's a little bit easier to drink than it typically is.
You have to do something to get you through that.
I've started to read up on it, and I've gotten some unsolicited advice as well. So I'm looking into it more and more to hopefully get my palate back in the near future. But I will say, I think like what do you have this on your website for right now?
I have it for 25-ish bucks, like in that realm. Wait, let me double check.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I think if you guys go out there and you pick this one up at, at that price point, you're going to be
$24.
pleasantly surprised. 24. Yeah. I mean, and it's there, like I said, there's some familiarity there just with it predominantly being Cabernet in it. But I do want to encourage people to go to their website and check out what they're doing. Because they just changed everything, and they have this beautiful like about us story that I've never seen like executed the way that they executed it on their website, and it just makes it really easy to navigate. And then you can see all these different expressions that they work with, and all the different things that they're doing. And they have like a really great video series just explaining everything that they do. Again, it's like we're getting to dabble in parts of the world that most people are not familiar with. I mean, especially here in California, where we're so lucky to be surrounded by so many great producing wine regions and stuff like that. And I think for myself, I've gone now the opposite direction, and I'm trying to find all this weird stuff. And there's definitely not too many things weirder or unfamiliar as, Lebanese wine. So, definitely pick up these bottles, because they're super fun. They're interesting. They're great. Like cocktail hour wines is what I like to call them. It's where, everybody has a small glass, and you're just kind of like, what are you getting on this? And it's really fun to break the wines that way, because, there is a lot going on in these. And again, they only get more interesting from here. Like this is just the blend, but there's a couple other ones that, feature some grapes that are indigenous to Lebanon that are just super crazy and really, really unique and fun.
I agree, man. Thanks for introducing me to this, because if you hadn't, I would have just kept assuming that, Musar is like the only one who wants to be in the U.S. And to be fair, I mean, I know that that's probably not true, but I just think that it's dope when we're able to find varietals or even find wines from regions that we wouldn't otherwise run into. And it's one of the things that I run into the most when people are like, oh, you run your own online retail wine shop. They're like, what's your niche? And I'm like, well, I do these virtual tastings, and then we try and feature wines that you probably won't taste anywhere else. Like, and I hope that for those of you guys who watch consistently and participate in these, I hope that that's what you get, because, I mean, today's a great example. We're in Georgia, we're in Lebanon. Next time, we're going to be in Tasmania and McLaren Vale. So yeah. My Lebanese friend just said he didn't even know his peeps grew vines for anything other than grape leaves to roll rice.
So to do dolmas.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, dude, I had to read that 2 times slow. I was like, wait a second. Got it. Oh yeah. See, I mean, well, there you go. Right. Diana, I'm glad that the wine is hitting the spot, and Lori, I'm glad that you're enjoying it. James Shelby and Christine Shelby, if you guys are still there, I know you guys are, crazy busy with your almost starting lineup. I want to know if this wine hit a little bit differently with the steak portion of your dinner. And then Ashley Sawyer, I know you guys made the dish. I want to know how this wine is treating you guys, because I know you guys are really into drinking wines that are off the beaten path, which is one of the reasons why you guys chose to get this box. So I'm curious. I want to get some feedback from you guys on if you like it, how you enjoy it, all that good stuff. I have 2 bottles of the Orgo Kisi left. I have 3 bottles of the Chateau Ksara left. Feel free to jump on the website. We got links in the chat, and you guys can snag those up. Yeah. What else is there to talk about? Let's see if I can think of anything to hit you guys with.
Well, I think I'll just get on my soapbox and be I really hope that people, if you didn't pick up these wines, I hope you go and pick up these wines. And if not these ones, then just something different, something else, because one of the things that I've come to appreciate about introducing my own palate, even though it's completely effed right now, but one of the reasons that I love drinking so much weird stuff is that it's going to increase your vocabulary as a drinker. And the things that you love, you're probably going to end up loving them more because you're going to be able to pick out more nuances than you were capable of, previously. And that just comes from constant. It's just like, it's like anything else. Like the more that you work out your palate, the more that you're challenging it, the more that you're tasting different things, like the better it becomes. And to me, there's no better thing to explore than alcohol because you're just getting drunk during the process. Like it's just, and for Tesh and I, like this is our job. This is what we have. I'm sorry, somebody has to do it.
Somebody,
And
I say that all the time, man. And people will always come up to me in any place that I work, and they're like, "Wow, your job seems really hard." And I'm like, "You could have signed up to do it. I just happened to notice that this was a gig."
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, like there are elements of this job that suck, and it's like anything else. There's weird stresses that other people don't experience, but then for the most part, like what we do is what people do in their free time, and I think that's it's a privileged position that we get to be in. But again, like even if it's not my stuff, I mean, obviously hit up the JVS joints on Tesh.com, but like there's so much cool stuff out there, and there's a lot of places like that don't cater to that. Like I was at Total Wine today and I was asking, I was like, hey, what do you have in this section? And I asked about Georgian wines. They had 3, and it was just like, well, that's not very exciting. I mean, like how are we supposed to get better at this? And I think that's why it's important to have shops, like Tesh's, because he's going out there and he's getting that stuff and he's doing this legwork to bring new things to the forefront, whether it's the Georgian wines or this Ksara, like this stuff has been around for hundreds of years, but it's just really now reaching our palates. And, and especially being in California where we have access to almost everything. It's really cool. And I want to, just encourage people more and more, like, support these small shops because they can kind of afford to be a little bit more adventurous, and the only way they're going to be able to continue to afford to do that is by taking these leaps and stuff like that. And this is something that Tesh and I joke about quite a bit, but it's like, if there's something in his store, it's good. Okay. You don't need to ask him. It's good. It's there. It's there for a reason. I mean, and Tesh will tell you, like, I'm buying stuff from him constantly.
Right.
Like I am always picking stuff up. I got your last tasting when you did the Greek wines. It was just like, yeah. I mean, if they're in your store, I'm buying them. I've never had a Greek wine before, and I've drank one of them. I still have the other one left, and it was great. It was super refreshing. It was light. It was enjoyable, and I just think it's super fun. And like and whether of course everybody go with Tesh, but like there are other little small shops and people with like good palates and stuff. Like support your small proprietors because those are the people that are pushing the cool shit. Like you want to go and it's like stay away from the grocery stores, and all that fun stuff, and go hit those independents.
You guys regularly see me rocking my Good Bottle shirt. I mean, I buy stuff from Good Bottle. You know what I mean? That's my homie. Those are my homies, I should say. Chris and Emily both, and I want to show them love and support, and whether or not somebody wants to see me succeed. I'm not saying that they don't want to see me succeed, but I want to put that energy out in the world. You know what I mean? Because I think that energy comes back to you in ways. I just think I'm a big believer that like the frequency that you put out into the world is a frequency that comes back to you. You know what I mean? Which explains why my children are fucking psychopaths. So
I agree with that too.
Right? Yeah, that's why they're psychopaths because we put that energy out in the world for them to receive.
Yeah, it's that. I think again, like you're constantly featuring cool stuff and to be honest with anybody who's still listening, hopefully people are still watching and listening. There's so many fun places to explore. Like Romania has some really, really cool stuff. Mexico has some cool stuff. These regions that people aren't necessarily used to hearing about wine. And even for the ones that we just tried, now. Like the Georgian wine book is incredible right now. The Lebanese stuff, whether it's this or Musara, like it's just like there's so much more. It's like if this ended up kind of being like your foot in the door and you're like, hey, this wasn't horrible, that's a great start. I'll take it, because now you're going to continue to go down that rabbit hole. And maybe you're kind of like, hey, I'm going to look into this one. And, and that's what, and again, to kind of direct you guys back to their websites, like, go to the Georgian Wine House, go to, the Chateau Ksara and check it out, because they understand that the odds are stacked against them, right? Like, we're not, if you just look at their distributor, like JVS, we're small, we're super tiny. Right. Like we don't have this robust team. And in all honesty, most of us tend to be spirit forward people. So I've come into the wine world and I've been ushered in by like the weirdest shit ever. Like I get, some crap from some of my accounts that are just kind of like, they're like, man, like you couldn't have started with like a layup when it comes to wine. Like you had to go to the most esoteric stuff possible. And now you want me to start selling it. It's like, yes,
I think
yes,
that's
I
great.
do.
I think that's great. Yeah, and also, Drew, like it sets you apart, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like it sets you apart in terms of what you have to offer. And it helps me set myself apart in terms of what I have to offer. A lot of you guys know, I started not too long ago at the Sutter Club in downtown as the sommelier, working part-time, not saying goodbye to this at all. People keep asking me that, even though I keep saying it. This is going to keep going. I want to keep doing this and I want to keep building this. So I have no intention of stopping, for what it's worth. So I'm saying it live now again. But I keep getting asked the question. So anyways, a lot of the members of the club will ask me, what's different? What do you have? And I'm like, you just got to check it out, man. It's not stuff that you're going to find here. And it truly, it's not I don't know that I have room for Orgo Kisi at the Sutter Club. I'd love to, but it's a different clientele. It's a different energy. It's a different vibe. And I this is my space to do what I want to do, and not have to cater to a specific clientele. You guys, as in terms of a clientele, are amazing because you guys will drink whatever the fuck I tell you to. And I think that's really fucking dope because you guys trust me, and that's really cool. So Drew, thank you for being my hype crew tonight, man. I love you, man. I appreciate you just being in the background all the time, and like sharing posts and liking shit and commenting. And then even just getting on here and just, saying, hey, buy more wine from Tesh because he's got kids to feed. By the way, if you guys didn't see, I want to say two things. Today is my son's birthday. He turned 3 today. And I love my son, but god damn, bro, 3 is hitting really, really hard in the most frustrating ways. I have to say this, we're live on the internet. In the most frustrating way. I love my son, but damn, I want to choke the motherfucker out sometimes, man. So that well, I don't even remember the fucking second thing I wanted to say was what was I gonna say? We'll be back in 2 weeks.
Check out JVS dope joint stuff.
Oh yeah, check out JVS joints. winewithtesh.com/JVS joints. Yes, very much so.
I think so.
Teenager. And my daughter is a straight up teenager. Like she's 6 and she has so much goddamn attitude. I don't know where she gets it from. It's fucking wild. But she has just so much attitude, bro. And I'm like, I am. You can't see it. The camera's being gentle and kind right now, but like, man, the gray hairs are strong with this one. Parenting is tough. That's what I was going to say.
The way that you get through it is you drink more Lebanese wine. That's how you survive.
Exactly.
You're welcome.
Exactly. Boom. Mic drop. Oh, that was the other thing that I was going to say. You'll notice, guys. I know a couple of you guys have commented, and I know that it's a thing. A couple of you guys have commented. You've noticed that the QR codes aren't on the bottles anymore. And you'll notice that the descriptions and stuff of the wines on the website aren't really there either. And here's why. I spend a lot of time making QR codes and then printing those stickers, buying the stickers, printing the stickers, putting them on the bottles, only to have a couple of you guys use them, right? And I like the idea of them, but I'm having to find the balance between doing what's efficient and still giving you what you need. So that being said, a couple things. I'm always accessible. You guys all have my cell phone number. You guys can always reach me. You can always text me to ask me, hey, I'm having dinner. This is what I'm having. What should I drink from my stash? I'm still available to you. Personal som, that's what I do. The other thing is that when you're shopping the website, most of you guys just end up shooting me messages and asking me questions about what to get anyways. So I've found that it doesn't really make too huge of a difference if I spend 15 minutes of my time writing up a little review for a wine that's going to sell out in like 2 weeks. So good problems to have on my front. But I don't want you guys to feel like I'm not doing it like for the sake of not doing it. I'm not doing it because I don't feel like there's a strong need for it at the moment. If that changes, then I'll come back and I'll start doing it again. So yeah. Drew's like, yeah, that's cool.
Sounds like you're just lazy.
To be fair, it is kind of, man. Like I understand it is kind of lazy. Like I want to, when I come home from the club, like I want to have bedtime stories with the kids and not be like, oh, I gotta stay up and do some write-ups on wines. Like it's laziness, but I think more so it's a choice to divvy up my time in ways that I'd rather spend it at the moment. And between,
I'm with you. I'm totally with you. I mean, we're in very similar positions, man. We're both basically running small businesses, and as I said earlier, like I'm always available to talk about this stuff, and so people, feel free to reach out to me. I'm always trying to be a resource for people. I'm always want to talk about it, but at the same time, it's like I have a teenager as well. So, it's about making time for her and making sure that my wife's not always taking it right on the chin and only dealing with her. So, it's about finding that balance and everything like that. So I don't blame you, but I'm definitely going to bust your balls about it. So
no, I feel you.
I got you.
As you should, as everyone has. Like ain't nobody, you ain't nothing new. You ain't nothing different. Everybody hitting me with this stuff. So it's cool. I feel you guys. I appreciate you guys. I just wanted to give you a heads up that, yeah, I know. It's been an intentional choice just to give myself more time. David said Orgo tastes like, I think he meant to say honey apple, but I'll take it. Mild, though. Cool. I'm glad. The important question is, do you like it? We'll see you guys in 2 weeks on August 18th. Somebody said that Handsome Dave's name is Handsome Dave and not Sexy Siva. And I said, then you fucking jump on Canva and get it to fit into that tiny ass little box.
It was Sinclair. Fuck that guy.
Hey, man, you know what I mean? Shit. Oh, you did mean homie. Okay, David, that's cool. I see you, baby. Homie apple. I don't know what the fuck homie apple is. Is that an apple that's grown in the hood? I don't really know what a homie apple is, but okay. No, we'll be back in 2 weeks with Handsome Dave, and we're going to be drinking a Pinot Noir from Tasmania, and we're going to be drinking some Grenache that's coming out of McLaren Vale. Drew, thanks again for being here, man. Appreciate you. Thanks for taking time out of your family life to be with us.
Of course,
guys, if you have any questions, shoot us a message. You can shoot us a message on Instagram, shoot us a message to our phones. You guys know how to get a hold of us. And until we see you guys again, be well, drink wines that mean something to you, and we'll chat again soon. Thanks, guys. Take care.